All right, just 1 minute. I wanted to try to get this stupid sand sculpture to work. And you guys have something to look at. Every time I set this up on my desk, it works perfectly fine. When I want to use it for my videos, it like gets stuck. So I don't know what the malfunction is. Anyway, this is Mobo. No theme song today. I didn't set up my Glock. So, all right. Let's see. Who's the girl who never picks up her phone? Who's the girl who's never flown a drone? Who's the girl who loves to bitch and moan? Well, her name is MUBBO. Also, just the regular PSA about my uncle who was found murdered in his home on October 4th of 2011 in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It is considered a cold case. But if you have any information, please call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-822-TIPS. That's 800-822-8477 with any information you might have. And it's very much appreciated. I'm going to go mess with this thing again. You know, I see these things advertised on Facebook for like $50. And I got this one at a flea market for $11. Oh, looks like a big piece is gonna fall. The lighting's not the best in here, and of course the background being a patterned wallpaper. Okay, so what I wanted to get into was the problem I was having with my computer. I'm really hoping that this microphone is recording, as I am no longer able to use my headset plugged into my machine. It picks up the headset, but it won't pick up the microphone section of the headset. So I'm hoping that it didn't mess up my freestanding microphone, which is a nice Yeti. I see that it's on, the button is pressed, and it should be recording. So around Mother's Day in May, now, to preface this, my computer has been like shutting off randomly. As far back as December of 2024, it would just like freak out and go to blue screen. And I could never catch like what the error message was because it was happening like so fast. But the computer would like write itself and come back again. And it'd be a couple more days or weeks would go by and then it would switch off again, but come back and function normally. I forgot to get a drink. I'm really thirsty. So around Mother's Day, the computer did its thing and went to blue screen, but it wouldn't function. Like when it turned back on, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't do anything. And I started seeing this screen called a BIOS screen that I had no idea what it is. And when I would reboot, it would just come up and go right to the BIOS screen. Now, this BIOS screen seemed like it wanted me to do something. Like I would exit out of it and it would say things like, "Are you sure you want to exit without making any changes?" And I don't know what it wanted from me. So I would just hit yes. It would reboot. It would come back up. The computer would work for a couple of minutes. And then I would start getting these really weird error messages. I actually have them here. Let's see, an application error. Required data was not placed into memory because of an IO error status. It had the blue screen. It had NVIDIA errors, webhelper.exe, bad image, miscellaneous errors. The instruction at whatever, reference memory at whatever, IO error status. So I had no idea what the heck was going on. So I decided to look at my Windows version. And my Windows version was saying that I was trying to use Windows 11, even though I know that I bought this machine with Windows 10. It was somehow like upgrading itself to Windows 11. But some of the programs, I guess, were not automatically reconfigured to be used with Windows 11. So I called after like a week or two of like trying everything to get this thing to work. I called Best Buy and I talked to the Geek Squad over there and I made an appointment to drop this thing off. So here we are at Geek Squad, right? I bring it over to Geek Squad. The guy's like really cool over there. They're really, really nice. And he says, I've never seen a computer that looks like this. It's a Corsair 1 and it's a really small unit. It's not like, it looks like the monolith from like 2001. It's like an upright as opposed to like more of a square cabinet. And he says that he's never seen this before. He'll have to do some research as to what to do, but he'll take a look at it. So a couple of days later, I get a call from them and they said, I think what we're going to do is we're going to reinstall Windows 11. It's like this thing was starting to upgrade on its own. Something happened, and for whatever reason, it's messing up. So we're just going to reinstall it. He says, do you want to keep all of your documents? I said, yes, just anything that's on the C drive, just keep it. Like, I'll go through it and figure out if I don't need it. Just bring everything over. So they do what they needed to do. I get a call. Of course, when I bring it there and they plug it in, it's like not shutting off. Like no matter what I did, like they left it sitting there for like 10 minutes and this thing did not turn off at all, of course. But actually what I tried to do was when I was getting that error message and it turned blue like so fast and then it just went away. I actually sat there with my phone and like recorded the screen as to what it would say. And it said critical error. No, it said critical process died. That was the blue screen error message. So I told this to the Geek Squad guys. They said, we'll reinstall it. Everything should be fine. So I get a call to come and pick it up. And I really have high hopes for this because they talked me into getting the plan where no matter how many problems you have, you can always just keep bringing it back, which isn't an issue, except that the store is more than an hour away from me. And I didn't want to keep bringing it back and forth. So they said, no matter what happens, they'll keep looking at it. Okay, that sounds great. So I bring it home. Well, let me just say, when I went to go pick it up, it was a different person than the person I dropped it off to. And I don't want to say anything because, I don't know this person, whatever, but he seemed like he was a little evasive when I asked if the computer was fixed. He pulled up the notes and he just said, they did everything that they said they were going to do. He didn't say that it was fixed. He said they did everything they said they were going to do. They reinstalled the Windows 11 and they tested it and it seemed to be okay. So why would it work? So I bring it home, I plug it in, and wouldn't you know, 10 minutes later, back to the blue screen. Same error, critical process died. I said, I'm not going to bring this all the way back there again. I'm not going to bring it all the way because they didn't really seem all that familiar with this machine. I'm sure they're a fine set of IT professionals. I'm not doubting that, but they seem like really overwhelmed over there. Like they seem like they probably have a time constraints and they need to get things turned around in a certain amount of time because that's how corporations are. So I said, the hell with this. I'm going to call a local PC repair place and see if I can have it dropped off. So I find this place not too far from me, maybe like 40 minutes. And I tell them what's going on. I drop the computer off. I bring all my notes along with me. I have this paper written up of everything that was happening. He takes one look at the machine and he says, I've never seen a machine that looks like this. I'm like, okay. And I told him that it started shutting off. And he suggested, do you know anything about the cooling system? And I says, it's a pre-built, right? Like I didn't buy it per piece. I ordered the pre-built and they sent it here. And he says, sometimes what can happen is that like the cooling systems can dry out. And he's like, the problem is with mine, as it's over 6 years old, is the way that it's built. I'll actually show it to you right now. So this is my computer. This is the cabinet. It looks like this. If you can see it, there we go. It's like a rectangle. And he says the problem with this is it's so tightly packed in there that you have to get the exact same model of the parts. Like it's not like you can open it and you have plenty of room and you can just put any old thing in there. It's configured primarily to fit into this cabinet. I says, great, well, what does that mean? He says, well, sometimes you can't buy the parts if it's like an older computer. Totally going the wrong way. I says, well, you do your best. Oh my goodness. I said, just do your best. Take a look in there, see what it looks like, and let me know. So I says, well, look, it's got this BIOS issue. It's got this like Windows thing that they said they were going to do. And, I don't know if they actually did it or something's still wrong with the BIOS. He says, all right, I'm going to reinstall Windows 11 again. Because maybe something happened with the install. I don't know. He reinstalls it. And he says, do you want me to open the machine and like take a look in there at the cooling system? I says, yeah, like take a look in there. I was like, maybe there's like, I started like reading about all this stuff that could possibly go wrong. And apparently there's like this thermal paste that can like dry out and all this. I says, put the new thermal paste. I don't even really know what that is. Just put the thermal paste in there. I heard it could be part of the issue. Just put it in there. So now with the $200 from Best Buy, and now this new guy looking at it, now I'm like $500 in for this computer that's 6 years old, and I still don't even know what's wrong with it. I get it home. Everything seems okay. Everything seems all right. It's not shutting down. I go to look at my Windows version because I want to make sure that it is Windows 11, and it says Windows is not installed. You can't make any changes. Windows is not installed on this machine. We can't find this machine. We can't find any of your devices. You don't have Windows. Now, I know I bought Windows because, all right, so when I ordered this Corsair computer, I ordered it with Microsoft Office installed and Windows installed, and they gave me none of it. They just gave me a blank machine. So I spent all this money expecting to get this stuff, and I fought with them and I talked to them, and they kept giving me these product codes that weren't valid, and I just said, forget it. This is like when I first bought the machine, like 2019. I said, forget it, guys. I'll do it myself. So I put Windows on there and I put Microsoft Office, and this is where we are now. So now I got the computer. Nothing's, it's just, they took everything off, all third-party software. So Office isn't there anymore. And now it's saying that Windows is not installed, even though I paid them to reinstall Windows twice, once from Best Buy and then once from the PC repair. So I said, all right, I'm calling Microsoft. Now, if you ever called Microsoft, it's an adventure in and of itself. I believe I called on a Sunday, and I was on the phone with them for about 4 hours. They were very helpful. They tried to be very helpful. The guy says, I'm going to reinstall Windows again. This is like the third time now. I says to him, do you know what the issue is that's causing this? And he started poking around, and he noticed that I have a third-party virus protection. And he says, sometimes the virus protection will kind of like block applications if it thinks that it might be hazardous to the computer, it might cause an issue, even though it's not something that can hurt the computer. It's like flagging it, so it doesn't allow it to install. He's like, I bet if we turn off the virus protection, install Windows, and then you can turn it back on again, he's like, I think that's going to fix your issue. So that's what he did. I gave him permission. He remoted in. I gave him, the permissions to reinstall it. He turned off the virus protection. We installed it, and then he turned it back on again. And it seems to be working now. However, for some reason, Windows 11 won't let me use my headset with my microphone attached. When I plug it in, it just says, what did you plug in? And it just says headphone, and it won't allow me to like switch through the drop down to say microphone or microphone, headset with microphone, or, input with output, or whatever they call it. So now I had to get a set of speakers because my monitors do not have built-in speakers. Now I have speakers on my desk and my Yeti microphone, and that's how I have to, do everything. Instead of, if I wear headphones, then it's just headphones. And you can't have the headphones plugged in and the microphone plugged in at the same time. So I can listen through the headphones, but if I want to talk, like I do Duolingo, if I want to listen, I have to plug in the headphones. And if I need to speak to repeat a lesson, I need to unplug the headphones and then speak through the microphone. But now with the speakers on my desk and the microphone, it seems to be working. So I'm hoping that this solves everything, because this was a giant pain in the ass. And I really wish that I had gone to school for like computer repair, because I just felt so lost. Like these errors that I was getting, they weren't making any sense. But for somebody that knows about this, I guess they can, follow the clues and say, oh, this leads to this, and this is this. So it was just a lot of, it was like a month of just not being able to use my machine. I was trying to like limp along with my iPad and my phone, but I don't like apps. I don't like using a screen to like type on. I need a keyboard, I need a mouse. I'm not good with apps on like a mobile device. So that's the saga of my computer. So far, everything's okay. So now I want to talk about my cat. I'm just going to get a drink really quick. I brought in 2 stray cats. It must have been the beginning of May. There's a black cat and a white cat, so I'll just call them Blackie and Whitey. It turns out that Whitey was pregnant. She is about a year old, and I first saw her hanging around with the black cat outside in my driveway, and she would come up on my porch, and she was trying to eat birdseed and old bread that I had put out for the birds. So I knew that she didn't have a home, because if a cat has a home, they're not going to bother trying to eat that. So I brought them in. I brought them to the vet to be checked, and the vet confirmed, yes, little white cat is pregnant. I says, great. I'm not looking for kittens, whatever. So they're like, oh, well, we can do an emergency spay. I'm like, well, I don't want to do that either, and I got voted down by the other members of my household that they wanted to have the kittens. Okay. So she ends up having her kittens this past Wednesday, the 25th. She has 1 kitten. It survives. Kitten number 2 comes out. It takes a couple of breaths, and then it just faded away. Like, it just died, like a couple of minutes afterwards. Kitten number 3 comes out, is fine. So, okay, we got 2 kittens. And everything was fine. She was acting normally. She was eating normally. She's very protective of her kitties. Everything's going good. Yesterday morning, I go in to check on her. She's actually in the master bathroom. She's got, her little enclosure. She had the kittens underneath the sink, in like the cabinet where like you keep all your toiletries. She wanted to have them in there. I go in there yesterday morning and there's another kitten in there and it's deceased. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, why is she having more kittens now? So I call the emergency vet. And they said she might have some kittens stuck inside of her, that she's unable to give birth to for whatever reason. She's tiny. She's only a year old. Why don't you bring her in and we'll do an x-ray? Well, first I called like 4 different vets and they're like, oh, well, since it's Saturday, we're closing in like 10 minutes. And, oh, why don't you go to the emergency? Like everybody was pointing me, go to the emergency vet, go to the emergency vet. So I get off the phone with the emergency vet. I go back upstairs. I have our carrier and it's all, got blankets in it and things. And I go to get her and there's another kitten. So now that's 5. And there's 3 that are deceased and only the original 2 from Wednesday have made it. So I'm like, what is going on here? So I pack her up. I bring her to the emergency vet. And this vet is the kind of place where you pull up and you have to call in to like let them know you're there. And then you have to sit in your car and wait until you're called. So we got there a little bit after 12, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4 o'clock comes. Nobody's calling. And I'm seeing some people go in and a couple of people come out, but like they're still not calling us, to like go in. Meanwhile, the mama cat is like hyperventilating. She's breathing very heavy. She's panting. She has no food or water, but we brought the kittens and she's sitting there with the kittens and they're eating. And I mean, the kittens seem fine. So now it's like, I go in at like 4:30 and I'm like, look, we've been here since before 1 o'clock. Like you guys are concerned that she's getting septic, but you're letting her sit in the car for like 4 hours. And they're like, oh, we're just really behind. It's Saturday. A lot of people's vets are closed. So, everybody's coming. I says, I just want to make sure we're still on the list. She's like, yeah. She's like, there's one more person ahead of you. And then you guys go. Okay. So go back out to the car. And now it's after 5 and we finally get the call. And my phone rang, the car next to me phone rang. And then like the car, like a couple cars over, phone rang too, and we all like went in together. And I'm thinking like, do they like see 4 people? They have 4 examination rooms. So do they see like 4 people at a time, get them all through, clean the rooms, and then call in like 4 more people? Like that's the only way that I can fathom that like we've been waiting so long. Like if somebody gets done with room 1, then you should bring in another patient and let them go to room 1. And I'm like, do they only have 1 doctor on duty? Like that's, I don't know. But it was a very exhausting day. And we go in and they started asking me questions, about the cat, blah, blah, blah. And they took her for an x-ray and they said, okay, thankfully there are no more kittens. You don't have to worry. She should be all done now. She should be eating and drinking. And then they said, we're going to give her some fluids just because, she's been away from the food and water. So they gave her fluids. We brought her home and we get her all nice and set up and she won't eat. She will not eat. I tried like 4 different kinds of food. She has been on kitten food because it's really good for like a nursing mom. I tried some treats and still nothing. So I'm like, well, maybe it's just the stress of the day. And like she gave birth, like twice that day. Like maybe she's just, still recuperating and she just needs a quiet place. And then of course I go online and Uncle Google says, oh, it's a medical emergency. If a nursing mom will not eat, you need to go back to you need to take her to the vet emergency immediately. It could be eclampsia. It could be like a blockage. I just got home from being at the vet. I mean, they took an x-ray. They would have seen if she had any kind of blockage, right? So I put that on my head, but I'm like, well, I don't know if they would see eclampsia, like that's an infection. They didn't want to give her any antibiotics because it would then be passed into the kittens, which makes total sense to me. So a little while later, I tried more food and thankfully she started eating. So I think she's on the road to being okay. And now we're just going to raise the kittens and try to find a home. And, hopefully things will just mellow out a little bit because it's been very crazy around here. So that's my boring story about the kittens. So I just wanted to quickly touch on a series that I was thinking about doing. Many years ago, I read the Andy Warhol Diaries. This was probably, and I think I mentioned this in another video, it's probably about 10 years or so that I read them. But the book is like so immense that I think I read it just to read it, like just to say that I read it. And, I kind of let a lot of things go that I didn't understand, like people and places and things, you just read the names and the places. But I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to reread the Andy Warhol Diaries. And what I'd like to do is I won't read it word for word. I'll like summarize what he did on a certain day. And then I'd like to go and find other notable things that happened on that date. And I thought maybe that would be fun to do. Like what else was going on in the world as Andy Warhol is doing this thing that he's doing. Maybe we'll come across some interesting things. So that was my idea for the next series. So I'm going to end it here. I'm hoping to start streaming more regularly now that my computer's up and running. And I thank you all for tuning in. If you did, I mean, I don't care. I stream like no one's watching. So this is really just for me. So I just want to say bye, everybody. Stay out of trouble if you can.